Welcome once again as we're all hiding in our bunkers, waiting for the doom to come, but the doom's not coming. It's another episode of Recording in Progress while we're watching the death of entertainment in real time. So we're doing our part to help out America by offering alternative entertainment.
And providing you with delicious Negro Modelo.
Exactly. And remember, when your favorite Mexican eatery reopens, just tell your waiter, Negro, please. How's it going, Jim?
I'm doing great. I think. I could be in that 4-day waiting period of having coronavirus and passing it to everybody, but I don't know.
But what if you're in the 14-day period?
Then I have 88 days left to live.
So we have another fantastic and exciting show for you. We're going to talk about a film snob movie and its a recent sequel, Blade Runner. That's the money shot highlight of today's episode. We're going to start with Anita Sarkeesian proposing a real pro gamer move once my actual file decides to stop eating itself. My internet is having a little moment.
Yeah, since everybody is going online right now to watch Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus, to avoid drinking delicious Negro Modelo, everybody's internet is crap except for mine. For some reason, I don't know why, but my internet seems to be doing just fine. Except my Wi-Fi was kind of crapping out, but I just fixed that with a channel change.
So, Jim, do you want to start by reading off how Anita Sarkeesian started off with a pro gamer move this week?
Yeah. So Anita Sarkeesian asks, why hasn't America released everyone in prisons? So Anita Sarkeesian, a self-labeled feminist media critic, recently took to Twitter to ask the question, why hasn't America released everyone in prisons?
Because it's a terrible idea.
Yes. I am an anarchist, and even I think that's a dumb idea, even though in principle I think there might be something to that. But anyways, we'll keep reading. Sarkeesian is primarily known for bashing media properties and celebrities that do not align with her own personal worldview. Back in November, she bashed Jon Favreau and the popular Star Wars series, The Mandalorian.
She also is known for taking $10,000 to play video games, but then never play the video games.
Yeah, and just basically take clips from live streamers. She claimed the show's she claims that the show, this is poorly kind of edited, but anyways, The Mandalorian was perpetuates hierarchy. Most mass media overwhelmingly centers men and perpetuates patriarchy. The hashtag Mandalorian is no exception. It wastes no time in establishing a patriarchal setting. The bartender is a man. The bar patrons are men. The cab driver is a man, etc. The first female we meet is the ship. And then we learned later in that series that's not true. That's not true. So anyways, moving along. Favreau and The Mandalorian are not the only people she's gone after. She went after Tyler Ninja Belvins back in September 2018 for his personal decision not to stream with women other than his wife, which is a...
Ninja please,
which is a very smart move. Considering, all these recent allegations going around of sexual harassment. It's just a good idea just to distance yourself from that. And that's why Mike Pence says that he won't go into a room alone that's with not his wife. He just won't do it, just because that's just good professional practices. Right
there's a general professional practice called the rule of two. That you're not alone with a woman, a child, or any person that might be deemed, I don't want to say weaker, but the state determines that you have an obligation to act with protection towards. Mm-hmm. You don't go in alone.
Yep. Sarkeesian would then attack Belvins, calling him a misogynist when ESPN chose to feature him on the ESPN magazine cover. She also taken issue with Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp claiming the entire plot is about saving a damsel in distress. I did not watch the movie .jpg. As you can
Well,
see,
it's about a woman who's in distress, but she's the villain.
mm-hmm.
So they're not saving her. They're actually helping her with her illness.
Yes. As you can see, she has a lot of pretty stupid arguments and ignorantly attacks people without cause. But her latest argument might be the dumbest she's ever brought up. Sarkeesian took to Twitter to ask a number of questions. First, she asked, why hasn't America frozen rents and mortgages yet? So, Larry, why hasn't America frozen rents and mortgages?
Because they don't know if they need to. So you don't want to basically destroy the entire banking industry until you don't have any other option.
Yeah, but I should just have a house. I should just get it. I should just get it for free, right?
Exactly.
She continued, why hasn't America nationalized its health services?
Because that wouldn't solve the problem. That would actually make it longer to fix the problem.
Yeah. And then you're going to have to be like, okay, we're going to have to shut down everything and then shut down everything that we need to, to fix the problem that we have right now in order to reorganize everything and transfer ownership to all that. That's a whole mess. That's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
So then she asked, why hasn't America released everyone in prisons? By the way, I'm not saying that's a good idea to nationalize healthcare, but I'll just say that it was a good idea. Now would be a bad time. even if she was right, she's still wrong.
Now would be literally the worst time to do that.
Yeah. Then she asked, why hasn't America released everyone in prisons?
Because that doesn't actually solve the problem.
She continued. She continued. Oh, God help us. Why hasn't America issued a shelter in place for the whole nation?
Because not every part of the nation is doing as badly.
Yeah, I think.
Also, places like BFE, Alaska, that's it's more of a complicated problem than New York City. We have federalism because it's a good idea.
Okay. So has Idaho got hit yet?
Yeah.
It finally got hit? I know they were the last holdout state.
No, actually it was like West Virginia, I think.
Sarkeesian concluded, now it's a good time to read up on alternatives to capitalism. I don't disagree, actually. I think now is a great time to read alternatives to capitalism because we can know that, hey, if we think we got it bad now, it could only get worse if we had these systems, right?
I mean, there are restrictions in some shelves and some limited shelving in grocery stores, but it could be worse. Mm-hmm. It could be limited all the time and not just during times of crisis.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw a little film called Street Fighter the movie, where Chung Li is telling Bison I came for revenge for what you did to my village on this village, and he was like, I don't remember. And she's like, what do you mean you don't remember? And he's like, you forget, like you remember the day that Grayson Bison
the bison graced your village.
Yeah, but to me it was just a Tuesday. That's kind of the same thing. Like, we remember the day that that America had long lines for things like the Great Depression or this pandemic, but in socialist countries that's just Tuesday. We're out of food. Yeah. Sarkeesian isn't the only one to advocate alternatives for capitalism. It seems to be a trend among celebrities amidst the coronavirus.
Another one of her proposals for alternatives to capitalism: not paying your employees.
Oh yeah,
because she's not paid her employees.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when you see all these celebrities singing "Imagine Having No Possessions," it's like, well, that's easy for someone to say while they're sitting in their mansion. It's easy for someone to say that, right?
I mean, it's easy if you try. Isn't that what the lyric from the song is?
Yeah, it's easy. Well, okay, I can imagine it. Yeah, it sounds terrible. Okay, I imagined it. Now what? Okay, so Hotel Transylvania actor Fran Dresser. Oh God, She's still around. I can't stand her voice. Recently called for a general strike and declared capitalism has become another word for ruling class elite.
What?
Capitalism has become another word for ruling class elite.
What?
That's... No. I don't know anybody uses it that way. Not even like people who are critical of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hulk actor Mark Ruffalo even called for an economic revolution back in December. He also added, capitalism today is failing us, killing us, and robbing us from our children's future. Again, nice to say that. Nice to say that when you're sitting pretty, right? What do you make of Sarkeesian's recent comments? Do you think she's finally said the dumbest thing she could possibly say? Or do you agree with her?
Oh, God, no.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me? She's a wellspring of dumb things to say. It's kind of hard ordinarily ranking all of the dumb things she said. I think that would be an impossible task.
So, Jim and I have covered a little bit more comic book news because, there was the new Warriors, and then there was the big announcement for Children of the Atom. Now, both Children of the Atom and the new Warriors have actually, they've been teased previously before the big release. Well, DC is announcing a similar property called Gotham High. Oh. First look, Batman meets Gossip Girl in the new graphic novel Gotham High.
Gossip Girl?
Gossip Girl. Even after 80 years of Batman comics, movies, and TV series, you've never seen the Cape Crusader like this because he's going to be a high school kid. He's not going to be the Cape Crusader. DC Comics' new graphic novel, Gotham High, reimagines a teenage Bruce Wayne, along with younger versions of Catwoman, a.k.a. Selena Kyle, and Joker, a.k.a. Jack Napier, in a world that feels more on par with Gossip Girl and Crazy Rich Asians than anything that's come before in the canon. Do you need a moment to... just wait, I'll explain that. I'll circle back to that question. After Bruce, a rich Chinese American loner, because of course Bruce Wayne is Chinese. Don't be ridiculous.
Huh?
He's Chinese now. Gets kicked out of his boarding school, he returns to Gotham City to find his home and former friends are nothing like he'd left them. Former girl next door, Selena, is now the queen bee of Gotham High, ruling over everyone with a dark side no one knows about. And Class Clown Jack will do anything to get the last laugh. Even when a string of kidnappings seem to target Bruce, finds himself embroiled in a dangerous love triangle with the very people he suspects are at the center of it.
Huh?
EW has your exclusive first look at Gotham High in the book trailer above and the excerpt below, plus author Melissa De La Cruz and illustrator Thomas Piddle reveal what fans can expect from the new Gotham story. So let's take a look at this. Look at this picture here. Look at that. Selena Kyle is now Hispanic or some vague form of black.
Huh?
And Jack Name. Yeah. When DC Inc. approached you to reinvent young adult versions of the popular comic book characters, what drew you to Batman? Melissa, my husband is a big Batman fan, so when DC Comics called and said, we want you to do young adult line, what character do you want to do? I want to do Batman. It's such a fun and iconic character that I could put my own spin on.
Huh?
Do you need a moment, Jim?
Do you remember last time we started putting spin on Batman? We got bat nipples.
I'll give you a second here.
So no amount of time you're going to give me is gonna get me to understand what's happening here.
So, what excites you both about debuting new versions, not only Batman but also Joker and Catwoman? Bruce Wayne is the billionaire; he's the richest man alive. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun if his family was Chinese and from Hong Kong?
What?
That made it feel real.
Huh?
There's been a big influx of wealthy Chinese people who moved from Hong Kong to Arcadia in Los Angeles. That's where my mom lives. I'm part Chinese. My brother lives in Hong Kong. So I thought it'd be great to put what I know into Bruce Wayne. I just wanted him to be a little bit more representative of my background and give him an authentic family. Alfred is not just his butler, but it's also his uncle, his gay uncle from Hong Kong.
Huh?
It gives it this fabulous, crazy, rich Asian sheen to it.
This is like when someone says, like, "Hey, I have good news and bad news." Well, give me the good news first, and then they start telling you all the bad parts. So, what's the bad news?
just wait. That breathes new life into the character, especially in today's world, since we're living in a more diverse world we've probably ever lived in.
Bruce Wang.
Bruce Wang. So it's more representative of Batman in 2020. And since he's a teenager, I tried my best to put a little bit of myself into the character as well, channeling those feelings of being an adolescent, feeling like an outsider. I definitely wasn't a billionaire, but oftentimes I felt very separated from everyone else around me.
What?
Just wait. Thomas, so how did you go about designing the look of the character since it was such a clean slate? Piddle, there's so much of that Instagram culture and social media culture with teens today. So, Jim, do you know teenagers?
Is one of them going to have a TikTok account? Is that where we're going with this? By the way, how come Joker looks like Roger Klotz?
That is an interesting question.
This isn't a clean slate.
So I tried to interject that in the style. Look at these characters, specifically with the Joker character. He was the hardest character to design because he's not your average villain. He's almost not a villain at all. In ways, he goes back and forth.
What?
Where you sympathize with him sometimes, and sometimes you see him as a villain. So I wanted to give him a look that played off both sides of his personality. We kept going back and forth. Finally, it came down to it. The time we're doing Gotham High, and I had this haircut, and it was the same haircut we ended up giving the Joker. It became a great reference throughout the process. And I just had that look myself. In a weird way, the Joker character is the most like me. And the author, I would send you fashion for Selena because I had really specific ideas for outfits that I wanted her to wear. Those really helped. I brought more of what you envisioned onto the paper.
No, I was really questioning this, but then she's saying that Selena's wearing the clothes that she wears. I'm sold. Where do I buy a copy?
So, Melissa,
what?
When you sat down to develop the story of this graphic novel, what was your main goal that you wanted to accomplish? I want to write about a young Bruce Wayne, so obviously there's going to be a love story. The Joker's pretty hot, so he's got to be in there. That's where I started. I want to write something about how he dealt with his wealth because always written stories about how things that people think are so great actually don't turn out to be so great. I just wrote The Queen's Assassin about a girl who doesn't want to be a princess. I wanted to show how it's actually not great to be rich. It's actually a barrier between Bruce and everyone around him. It's almost a burden to be so different. If he's able to have friends, can he have a relationship? And then I went from there. Speaking of that love triangle, we've always seen Batman, Joker, and Catwoman at odds with each other, and sometimes Batman and Catwoman are in romantic situations. Where did you get the idea to make this a full-on love triangle?
What? To quote the great philosopher Hillary Clinton, delete your account.
And this is from the young adult book line that DC Comics has had, that one of them focused on Harley Quinn being raised by drag queens as a street kid.
Okay. So this is a thing.
This is a thing. And if you scroll down, you can actually see pictures of the comic.
I'm scared. Hold me. It's just a bunch of people holding cell phones.
Yeah, because that's what teenagers do, right? So, Jim, what do you think of Bruce Wayne,
what?
the Batman? I mean,
I don't want to think about this. This is terrible.
I think this is going to do a great job helping the comic book stores once they reopen.
No,
This is really going to get people to come in and buy comic books, don't you think, Jim?
I am chomping at the bit for the quarantine to be over so I can go buy what?
And the Joker got Selena Kyle Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. That's a romantic book, sharp heart. So, Jim, do you need a breather before we go on to the next story?
No, we need to delete this. Delete this.
So, Diamond Comics, the monopoly that controls the entire comic book industry, shut down because of delicious Negro Modelo. And also, they reduced their number of redundant employees. It's very easy to reduce the number of redundant employees when you stop operations. Doesn't that technically make everybody a redundant employee?
Yes.
Diamond Comics Distributors has released an official statement announcing that they are shutting down operations and will no longer receive shipments of new comics at its warehouses. The coronavirus is hitting all kinds of businesses, including comic book shops. Note, several small publishers didn't tell Diamond that they weren't going to send them comics and were very surprised that Diamond said, no, we're not distributing. And DC Comics and Marvel told all of their staff, yeah, stop working because we're not going to give you any more money because we're not going to be able to distribute anything and we don't want to get a giant bottleneck in the distribution chain. In the statement, Steve Geppi, chairman and CEO of Diamond's parent company, Geppi Family Enterprises, said that the move comes as a result of what his company is hearing from comic stores. He also talks about the effect this is going to have on distributors and their path as they move forward. You can read the following. As everybody knows, the world faces ever-increasing challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Effects in the comics and collectibles and tabletop gaming industry has been felt far and wide. We are hearing from thousands of retailers. There aren't thousands. There's maybe 1,900. There's not that much. That they can no longer service their customers as they have in the past. Many of them are forced to close by government action or resort to in-person or curbside delivery. Even those still open are seeing reduced foot traffic. In most cases, the situation seems likely to worsen with time. Our publishing partners are also faced with numerous issues in their supply chain because they get their supply chain from China, aka Iran, Mexico, working with creators, printers, and increasingly uncertain when it comes to production and delivery of products for us to distribute. Our freight networks are feeling the strain and are already experiencing delays while our distribution centers in New York, California, and Pennsylvania were all closed last week. So why didn't you open with that saying, listen, government closed out our distribution center, so we can't send out your stuff? Our own home office in Maryland instituted a work-from-home policy, and experts say that we can expect further closures. Therefore, my only logical conclusion is to cease the distribution of new weekly product until there's a greater clarity on the progress made towards stemming the flow of the disease.
And nothing of value was lost.
Thank you, Jim.
There.
Thank you. I should have put that in there. You knew what I needed to say. And just announced today on a absolutely related note, DC exploring multiple distributor model to deal with the coronavirus crisis.
Bruh.
So look at it this way. A monopoly decided to shut down, and so things are changing. Saturday afternoon, DC issued a letter to the direct market retail community addressing its initial plans to deal with the effects of the coronavirus has had on the distribution in the comic industry. Here's the full text of their letter. To direct market retailers, first, the entire team here at DC hopes that you and your family and your employees are staying safe and healthy during this very tough and precarious time. We know that you've been waiting for DC to comment on the state of affairs and to address any measures that we will take to help our community lighten the burden of disruption to our business, and we've been working hard on a long-term, solution-focused plan. Here is how we will help. Periodicals and books with in-store dates between March 18th, 2020 and June 24th, 2020 will be fully returnable. We'll even provide credit for your separate return shipping of those items only, which is a huge deal that actual stores have been trying to get for years. Additionally, because we anticipate the continuing disruption to business operations, we will create regional volatility DC is exploring a multi-distributor model to provide us with flexibility needed during this crisis to get new content to our readers on an ongoing basis. In the short term, we continue to engage in the active conversation with Diamond to help us solve the distribution issues that have arisen and hope to get new product to stores that want it or need it as soon as possible. We'll provide additional information about how we'll make that happen in the coming days. Thank you for your patience with us. DC will continue to monitor the situation and continue to speak with you directly and continue to support you through the days ahead. You are the lifeblood of this industry.
Now shut up and consume love triangle, teen comics, race swap nonsense.
But yes, this is very good news, as Tally said, because the death of Diamond means that comic book shops are actually going to have a chance to survive. Because a typical story happened in my local comic book shop. They shipped some other store's product to them. And he called them up and said, hey, this wasn't my order. This is the guy who's like 3 hours down the road from me. And they said, oh, okay, you can send that back to us and we'll send that to him and say, okay. So are you going to send me a shipping label? No, you'd have to pay to ship that back to us. Oh. So he called the other store owner who drove up, and they commiserated about how Diamond is awful. So Delicious Negro Modelo may be destroying a terrible, terrible monopoly and allowing something good to arise in its place. So now it's time for the reviews, and Jim actually has an idea about a video game review he wants to do.
So the new Doom came out, and I got a chance to play it, and man, is it good!
Jim, that's Doom 64.
Right, it just came out. I bought it on Switch.
No,
it just
that was a Nintendo 64 game, Jim.
But I thought a new Doom game came out, and
that's a different Doom game. Not this one. This is just a port of an old game to Switch.
So there's two that came out?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I didn't play that one. I played this one. Yeah. Well, that's embarrassing.
I mean, that is embarrassing. But we got an album review.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good game.
It is a good game.
So, did you ever watch a little film called Ender's Game that came out, was it 2014, I want to say?
I watched it, and I've read a couple of the books in the series. And after listening to this album that was supposed to be part of the soundtrack for Ender's Game, Jim and I said, hey, we should review Ender's Game. So that's going to come up next week. Yeah.
So Warner Brothers commissioned the Flaming Lips, who I am a huge fan of, which we did 2 previous albums of theirs on the show. They commissioned them to do the soundtrack for the new Ender's Game, and they were like, "This is amazing and great. We're not gonna go with it. We're gonna hire some hack to do the rest of the soundtrack." And it was pretty forgettable. The soundtrack, well, at least it was. The movie was pretty good, sort of forgettable, but whatever. That's a different side. So the Flaming Lips were like, okay, well, we'll just rebrand this and put it out as a little quick EP, and everybody was like, "This is great. This is in fact better than the album you just dropped."
This would have made the movie a whole lot better.
Yeah. But they did use the first song from this album at the very end of the movie while the credits started rolling. Right before the credits started rolling, it kind of cued into this and it bled into the credits. So that was nice. That was nice of them to use at least one of the songs. But yeah, this is a lot of it's kind of ethereal, kind of something that you would listen to while in space, while also consuming lots of mushrooms. And it's very kind of spacey. There's parts of it where it seems like, okay, this seems like it's supposed to be kind of like going along with something in a movie, whereas most of it does seem like just good music that has a nice rhythm to it, nice beat to it, kind of stands on its own. But Larry, what did you think of Peace Sword by Flaming Lips, the EP?
It's a very good song. It fits all the little circles of music that I like. Mm-hmm. And this is actually becoming a recurring kind of, I wouldn't call it a problem. It's become a recurring challenge in finding these things, because basically we're finding, like, here's a song to listen to, Larry. It's like, oh, this is in all of my taste circles. And for the next album, I think I was trying to go like in the middle of weird and accessible. I think we need to focus more on different.
Okay. Something like definitely not in your wheelhouse. Kind of going back in the realm of like Death Grips or Captain Beefheart, but not Captain Beefheart and Death Grips, because we just did those.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
But I mean, I like this. This is good for a sci-fi movie, especially if you're going with that late '60s aesthetic, early '70s sci-fi aesthetic.
Yeah, psychedelic sci-fi. It's kind of an interesting
Yeah.
blend of those two things, which I
So
think they
it
hit.
would be
And it's unfortunate that they came out with this, and then their album I think either came before or after it. I forget exactly. The Terror, which was an okay album. It was really lackluster, but this was so much better. Like this is something that I would want to listen to regularly, and I still kick myself for having the opportunity to buy this on vinyl and did not. And now they're going for like $100-$200. Yikes! Kicking
very big
myself.
yikes.
Yeah. So I guess you want to talk about Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So, when the Disney Lucasfilm merger happened,
Murder?
they were merger.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't actually mean murder? I think it was a Freudian slip.
Yeah, it was. So when that murder happened, there was almost a fully completed final season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Well, that got shut down. But when Disney said we need a Disney Plus, Cowboy Dave Filoni said, "Hey, remember that cartoon animated series I was doing that I didn't quite finish the full season of? Maybe we could, finish that and put that on Disney Plus." So I'm like 5 or 6 episodes into it. I think there's like 12 in the final season, and basically it's a nice little tidy thing. Taking all sorts of little characters and finishing their character arcs off. It's really nice. Like one of the first set of 4 episodes was based around a stormtrooper / clone trooper who got kidnapped, and everybody assumed he was dead, and they just came right around back to that, and they start off by, he's not dead, and we're going to go find him and rescue him. And there's a group of elite clone troopers who are elite because they're all defective clones in a way that is both extremely good and extremely bad. And after working with those elite clones, the friend who risks everything on the hunch that his friend is still alive says, "Hey, if you want to go with these guys, go with these guys." It's a good show. I'm looking forward to finishing the end of it. And it's kind of like Samurai Jack Season 5, where it's like you're feeling nice and comfy and feeling all these characters that you have good, positive memory about. All of them getting wrapped up into a nice little bow. Like, okay, these people all have their finish of their story that they deserved. And I enjoyed that. It's a good show. And I recommend it highly to anybody who has Disney Plus right now. So the next one, I wanted Jim to actually watch this so we could talk about it in more detail, but I realized that he may have trouble finding it on the public library. It's 11/22/63.
Gee, that number sounds familiar.
Yeah. Jim, do you like conspiracy theories?
I just happened to be, while you were talking, perusing this book that I have called Reclaiming History, The Assassination of President JFK by Vincent Bugliosi. It's a fantastic book, and it's just so convenient that you happen to be talking about this movie.
A little too convenient.
A little too convenient. This book is 1,700 pages long, not including the glossary and index. It is a tome, and publisher at the time was concerned that they would get reports of little old ladies buying this book and having it falling on them and hurting themselves or killing themselves. But it goes through all of these conspiracy theories that about the JFK and just shows why they're all just nonsensical. As someone who was a former JFK conspiracy nut, that was a good kind of thing to browse through.
I also was one until they had a special on, I think it was A&E or the Discovery Channel, where they used like computerized mapping, and they mapped all the bullets. They all came from the Texas School Books depository window, and it's like
the book suppository. I hope this book isn't a suppository.
Well, you know that's why you need all the toilet paper for the coronavirus. You're safe if you put a lot of paper up there as a suppository.
Yeah.
But so like all the bullet trajectories came from up there, and I'm like, well, that That seals it, because we know how bullet trajectories work.
Mhm.
We can project that with the math. It's like all of them hit there, all of them hit where the bodies moved in the Zapruder film. Everything made sense.
Yep. And it's a pretty easy shot to make. I think the kill shot was like 80 yards. It's an easy shot for a moving target that's moving directly straight. By the time that it was traveling like perfectly away from the book depository building during the kill shot, so it was a pretty easy shot to make.
I still believe with my dad's experience with that rifle, he said those rifles were garbage because A, they were Italian rifles, and B, they were even garbage by Italian rifle standards.
But if someone was a marksman who practiced a bit, had that opportunity, it's not a hard shot to make.
I mean, Oswald did have Marine rifle training,
yeah,
as we all know from watching Full Metal Jacket.
Yep.
So the main character is a school teacher, and he's teaching an adult education class and going about his school teachery day, and he's about to get divorced by his wife, as you do. And he's at his favorite diner where all the burgers are super cheap, like $1.25. And like, you know, they make some jokes about it. And then, you know, after he loses his wife, the guy says, hey, you know, I got a time machine in a back closet here. And it takes him to October 30th, I think it is, 1960. Same town, roughly the same place. Boop, pops him out. And so the guy who owns the diner is dying, and he's been working for years, going back in time, trying to solve out all the angles on the Kennedy assassination and to stop it and save JFK. And so, as he's dying of cancer, because time doesn't want you to alter the past, he has to entrust this guy to go back in the 1960s and solve the assassination. So, I know what you're thinking. So, is this all about him going into detailed ins and outs of the conspiracy? No. The first 3 episodes are about him kind of goofing around, going to a Kennedy rally, screwing around, and then he goes back and he saves one of the guys from his adult education class from being brutally murdered by his father. And once he does that and he kills the person, he then gains the ability to say, yeah, I could kill Lee Harvey Oswald. No problem. And then he, you know, spends his life living in Houston and Dallas and Fort Worth and all that, slowly stalking Lee Harvey Oswald. And eventually he does indeed stop Lee Harvey Oswald and saves President Kennedy and goes back to a ruined future. Turns out after Kennedy, they got 2 terms of George Wallace, and there was massive race riots, and the entire United States fell apart. And he goes back in time and then goes back to the future, because once you go back in time, you reset everything that you did the last time. And he tries to get the girl he loved, but he realizes if he goes after her, that he's going to be stuck in a time loop forever trying to chase her, and he's never going to be able to go home. So he gives up the woman he loves so she could live to be like the smart grandma librarian that everybody in the school loves and respects. And he doesn't get to live happily ever after with her. He doesn't save JFK. He doesn't help the guy who's dead, you know, brutally murdered his mom and his sister. The end. This was actually one of the first really hot streaming TV shows, and we've developed a theory that streaming series are basically movies padded out with lots and lots of filler. And now that I'm watching this as sort of like a retro review kind of thing, that's what this is. This is a movie with a ton of filler, like an entire side trip to Kentucky and trying to stop a hillbilly from killing his hillbilly family. That could have been cut out. There's a whole bunch of nonsense that goes on with him, like, you know, going into different houses and trying to stalk Oswald, and then his hillbilly assistant from Kentucky, he has to get him put into a mental institution and get electroshock therapy. Well, he doesn't make him get electroshock therapy. They just do that. Because he says, oh, the guy who told you he's my brother, he's really a time traveler from the future who's trying to stop somebody from assassinating President Kennedy. that's not what electroconvulsive therapy would have been prescribed for that at all. So, Jim, if somebody were saying something like that, what would a standard psychological medical dosage using our current standards be?
But electroshock therapy, I have not seen.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who says, listen, that guy who got me in here, he's a time traveler and he's going to try to stop somebody from killing President Trump.
Oh, okay. So tell me about your mother. Was she okay? Was she ever institutionalized?
No, my dad just beat her a lot. And my sister got beaten by her husband and disappeared, and nobody believed me when I was a kid and told him that.
Uh-huh. This happened around puberty age, you would say? Somewhere in there?
Before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to put you on a 72-hour hold. We want to keep an eye on you. Just make sure you're okay.
Like, how would you medicate this person?
If they were not, I don't medicate, so.
But how, from your experience, how would a doctor typically medicate somebody with some pretty severe delusions? Yeah.
I'm not. I couldn't tell you. Ativan.
Yeah, there'd be some Ativan.
Ativan. There'd be some Thorazine.
Delicious Thorazine.
Yeah. So there's a whole host of them. Yeah. So
the only real conspiracy theory angle focuses on the rich Russian guy who befriended Oswald, and they're like saying he met with the CIA, and the CIA told him to meet with Oswald a year and a half before Oswald came to Texas. What? Why? What? And then he has friends that you never see. That's the fun part. All the conspiracy theory elements of the story you never actually see happen. But you're supposed to believe that they're real. And then they have some weird subplots like the high school principal who befriends the main character. He's in love with the black secretary at the school, but because of segregation, they can't express their love for each other. I would not recommend this, but it's interesting as a historical artifact of the start of streaming as a revolution in modern entertainment. So, next up we have A Color Out of Space, a movie about a chthonic, incomprehensible being starring in an H.P. Lovecraft movie. Because it's Nicolas Cage as a farmer who's just trying to raise some alpacas. And then a big meteorite strikes the ground, and then a color from out of space happens, and everything gets weird. There's not really much of a story for this, but there's not really much of a story for the short story. It's your typical H.P. Lovecraft thing where it's entirely atmospheric. It's all about things being creepy and disturbing and unsettling, and then getting more and more creepy and disturbing and unsettling. But none of the things really bothered me until, you had like a John Carpenter's The Thing happen with all the alpacas turning into a giant amoeba with alpaca heads. I'm like going, okay, we've now crossed into an uncomfortable zone. And then the wife of Nicolas Cage's character merges with their youngest child and becomes like a spider creature. I'm going, yeah, this is not good. But I do recommend the movie because it's got a very interesting visual aesthetic. Nicolas Cage gives a very weird, artistic Nicolas Cage performance. Tommy Chong's also in this movie playing a hippie who lives in a shed out in the woods.
Far out, man.
Far out, man, indeed. Who tells people, like, yo, man, I'm seeing some weird shit. Oh, wait, I'm smoking weed. Well, I'm still seeing weird shit.
So is this the best H.P. Lovecraft adaptation? Or are you a Reanimator kind of guy?
This is the best aesthetic adaptation. But the best movie is Reanimator.
Okay.
Because Reanimator's actually a good movie, although the special effects aren't really super great. But that's kind of part of its charm, too. It's just like a gross kind of Fangoria sort of thing. And that's why people love it. So now, what we've all been waiting for, let's talk about Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. So first of all...
Hold on. I just want to point out that I was supposed to do a whole bunch of Coen Brothers movies this week, and I just didn't have time to do it, so we're going to wait until next week to get into that. So
yeah.
Okay.
So, first of all, we both rewatched this because it's been a while since I've rewatched it, and probably it's been a while since you rewatched it, right, Jim?
No, I saw it just before I saw Blade Runner 2049. But it's a new movie for me in terms of like the first time I saw it was like 2014 or something like that, when a friend was like, "Oh, you haven't seen it? You got to check it out. But you got to watch this version and not this version. But you could watch this version, but stay away from these versions." It's like, I don't even want to bother with it. He's like, "No, just trust me here. Just watch this version." I think he gave me the director's cut.
Right, but this is the final cut,
Yeah,
which
so we watched
is
the final cut.
the final cut. I think is the definitive best version. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think it's the best. I think this one goes
cleans
a lot.
out a lot of extraneous.
Mm-hmm.
It cleans out a lot of extraneous nonsense from the previous versions.
Mm-hmm. But it still gives you a lot of atmosphere to just chew on, which is the vast majority of this movie is just atmosphere and chewing on atmosphere, which I am not complaining about because even all this stuff still holds up today. I was actually surprised how well this movie holds up. You know, a lot of movies
holds up.
A lot of movies of this era, especially when they try to get a lot of fancy stuff, they don't really hold up. But it's rare that we get a movie like Star Wars, the theatrical version. I don't think the special editions hold up at all. But
no,
and that was just from the 90s. But I think all of this stuff holds up really well.
Yeah, and that's because most of this is practical. What wasn't practical is matte painted with some lighting effects. It's all very good.
Yep.
Let's talk about the music, because I think you put an average soundtrack into this movie, it's completely forgettable, and nobody would pay attention to it. Wouldn't you agree, Jim?
Yeah,
like the soundtrack and the sound design in this movie is really the lifeblood of the movie.
Yeah, it's very loud and bombastic. Like I don't really see that in a lot of movies lately. And when I saw Blade Runner 2049, they did the same thing where there was just loud music playing over like action scenes, which you don't really get. Usually the music kind of plays like in the background and adds a little bit of emphasis to it, but this is just like it overpowers everything in the scene. And it's good because the music is good, and it's not like, you know, some hip hop track or some, I don't know, new wave. I guess that would be more like it when this movie was 82. So yeah, new wave would probably be the thing. It's not. It's very much a kind of synth arrangement score. And it's awesome. And this is definitely something that I would listen to, just like doing stuff around the house where I don't have to think a lot and I could just appreciate it while I'm doing other things.
Yeah.
But it's definitely loud and in your face, and I really enjoyed that. I don't see that in movies anymore. It's just Blade Runner.
And also a lot of the interior shots of actual buildings and offices and things, those were actual buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's gorgeous. Yeah, the set designs on this are absolutely gorgeous. Especially like his not gorgeous, that's not the right word. They look really great, even though they're dark and cringy. And it seems like a place that you don't want to spend a lot of time in. But enjoying the movie, like knowing that there's a barrier between it and the movie, it's fun to be in that world. Even though I wouldn't want to live in that world. Right? There's a lot of really good world building going on in this.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So I've been watching a lot of streaming series for another channel I'm going to be talking about streaming series in, and the big thing is about world building is not so much, you know, deep, detailed lore that look, that character in the back corner is totally gay and then is a double knee amputee. What? No, that's not world building. World building is you're watching the movie, you're seeing stuff, and things make sense because the world makes sense. Like Battle Angel Alita, a lot of people were complaining they didn't understand things, and I was like, "What's there you need to understand?" There's a big fancy city with advanced technology at the top. There's a grimy city at the bottom, and the city at the bottom gets garbage from city at the top. And there's an entire economy driven on scavenging the remains of the rich, decadent city.
Mm-hmm.
That literally tells you everything you need to know. So, which a lot of places focus too much emphasis on world building, like trying to put in details and lore and story elements, and as opposed to things where just like, this is this way, this is this way, this is this way. So your brain just fills in all the gaps for you while you're watching it. Like all the different weird little foreigners who are there in the city and like the immigrant quarters. It just makes you feel like, okay, some really bad stuff has happened in the world. Humans are evacuating to outer space, and the city's just full of different immigrants. And it gives you an atmosphere and a feel, and it's like, okay, so that's why the police basically have folks going around murdering robots. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Rutger Hauer is amazing in this movie.
Yep.
Most of the actors are good. The guy who plays Tyrell does a great job. What's his face who plays Sebastian does a great job. Harrison Ford's kind of This was Harrison Ford when he was kind of dialing in, basically like listen, I'm a popular movie star, so I'm going to do a popular movie star performance and not put a whole lot into it.
I think that's where you get a lot of people speculating whether or not he's a replicant. Because, the replicants don't really have emotions. They're not supposed to have emotions.
But they do, as we see from the replicant characters.
Right. Well, the new versions do.
Yeah.
That the new models have emotions.
Well, I mean, you watch like the 4 replicants we follow in the whole movie. They display emotions.
Right.
They're
But
not
those are the new models. So you have Sean Young, Rebecca, right? Is that her name?
I think so.
Whatever. So yeah, she's the new model, and she kind of brings him in to introduce him to Harrison and be like, "Can you, like this is a real woman, right?" And he's like, "No, she's a replicant. Does she even know? That's crazy." That's how he's introduced that there's new models. And then the 4 other replicants are the new models. We don't get to see the other ones though. So I think we do, but we don't really get a chance to see the other models, but we're told that they don't have emotions.
Yeah.
And these ones are different. They're better. They have emotions, but as a failsafe, they only last for 4 years. They only live for 4 years, but they're like even stronger and they're more dangerous. So we have to get rid of them now.
So a lot of people, when they talk about this movie, talk about the moment where the protagonist figure changes at the very end of the movie. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Decker is really a protagonist in this movie?
Yeah. It's not a typical protagonist story. It's not the typical hero story. But I would say he is the protagonist of the story.
But I mean, do his actions really drive the story?
No, he's just a vehicle.
Right, he's a vehicle. Whereas you look at Roy Beatty and the other 4, their actions drive the story.
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of wondering is Harrison Ford really dialing it in, or is that what he needed to do? Because I've seen a lot of good movies where like the quote unquote protagonist there's nothing there, but it's just a vehicle for the story to get driven further. I think we talked about one recently. I can't remember. But yeah, there's lots of that kind of stuff. And I think that when we talk about Blade Runner 2049, I think Harrison Ford, how you say he's dialing it in on that movie, I don't agree with that, but we'll get into that when that comes. But
yeah,
I think that's what it's really all about. It's just like, if you give him too much emotions, then we're supposed to have more empathy for the character. We're supposed to be rooting for the character. The character is supposed to have some sort of arc, but that's not what they were going for. They were really more interested in putting you in this world and seeing these events unfold. But we have to follow someone. We just can't have these events just happening. Just things happen. The movie. that doesn't work. So we have to have someone to hang out with. And I think that Harrison Ford, he's a kind of cool guy. He's kind of emotionally detached from the whole situation. He's very professional.
Because he murders artificial people. That's going to make you a little emotionally detached.
Yeah. So I think that it works. I think that's what they were going for, and they got it. So I don't think he's dialing it in either film.
And all the little weird symbolism and stuff where they say this is why he's a replicant, like he had these dreams and this, that, and the other thing. I'm like,
I'm not buying it.
The
movie doesn't make sense if he's a replicant.
No.
It doesn't make any fucking sense if he's a replicant. No.
But also, like, he had a dream of the unicorn, and then Edward James almost made it's a freaking unicorn. It's like, an iconic cultural emblem. People are going to dream of unicorns because people have always dreamed of unicorns.
Yeah.
But
Ridley Scott goes around and tells people that he's a replicant now.
But like the writers disagree with him.
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott, when the movie came out, disagreed with that question.
Yeah.
And of course, when he had the opportunity in the next movie we're going to review to definitively give an answer to that, nope. He didn't. So, Blade Runner 2049
Blade Runner runtime 2049 minutes.
Oof. It's technically a sequel, but it doesn't really feel like a sequel.
No, it just
it's very stylistically similar. But other than Harrison Ford's character connecting everything, it doesn't feel like they're the same world.
I think it feels like the same world, just a lot later in the world. Because there's a lot of other things that happened since then that they talk about. Like there's been a blackout, a bunch of stuff went offline. There's been all kinds of economic turmoil since then. Things have progressed. Most people are farmers, blah, 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 blah. But there's still a lot of the other things that are still there. There's still a lot of people who are off-world. There's still replicants.
Well, actually, more people are off-world.
Yeah, more people off-world, yeah.
And they're actually sending, scummy people off-world now. They're basically evacuating Earth.
Yeah. And in this alternative timeline, Atari is still a major corporation, which I thought was great.
So, what did you think of Jared Leto's performance?
It's good, and it's refreshing to see him in something good finally, because we know we've just seen him in nothing but crap lately, and that doesn't look like it's going to change with the new. Was it Morbius movie? Doesn't look
Morbius.
Like
that doesn't look like that yet.
He did a very good job doing a blind person. It was actually kind of amazing how he was able to move his eyes like that, or move his head and let his eyes just kind of gaze over, which is not easy to do. But he's a good actor when he's given the right role. This is the right role for him. Yeah.
And well, how do you like this movie versus the original? First of all, I don't really get Ryan Gosling's popularity as an actor.
I do. I get it. He does. If you notice that most of the movies that he's in that are not rom-coms, they're very much kind of like he's able to express a lot of his. How do I put this? So we just watched not too long ago Drive, which I think is probably his best movie. He has very little lines in that movie, but he's able to convey all kinds of information without saying any words at all. He's very good at that. That's his skill, and I think this movie is perfect for him. On top of the fact that he's a replicant, and he's starting to kind of, he doesn't have the emotional range that most other roles would need him to have, but he's still able to, even with that handicap that they put on him in that movie, he's still convey a lot of information without speaking. So I think this role was perfect for him. I'm not a big fan of his rom-com stuff for obvious reasons. But anytime that he's in a really good movie, I'm just like floored by his performance. Drive and this movie is a great example. I do like this movie. I think the original is better. And it's not because, I'm trying to be like, oh, the book's better than the movie type attitude. I think this movie is legitimately good. But I think this movie might have been better if they just got rid of the whole Harrison Ford aspect of it and just kept it in that world. Or if they kept him in and they did all this stuff to remove Harrison from the marketing material. Because I think that if we just walked in and had him actually end up being the central thing, I think that would have been a much more pleasant surprise. But because he's on because he was in all the trailers and he was on the posters, we were expecting him. And because we were expecting him, it was kind of disappointing that he doesn't show up for the first half of the movie.
So here's my problem with Harrison in this movie. So it's all about him and his, daughter from Andy McDowell's character from the previous movie, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever her name is. I don't care about the daughter character. The movie doesn't really give me a reason to be interested in her. But like, there's people who are like, she's the human replicant hybrid, so like, revolution, rah rah rah. But I don't feel like that's like organically really makes any sense in the world. I don't feel like the movie really earned that, and also I don't feel like her character is enough in the movie that I should have feelings about her reconciling with Harrison Ford. And Harrison Ford's performance for me is kind of caught up in like the context of the last Indiana Jones movie, how he dialed it in more or less for The Force Awakens. Like, listen, I'll do this movie, but please, for the love of God, just kill Han Solo. What? You need me to come back for the last movie? Look, I'm not going to shave, and I'm not going to comb my hair. I'm just going to show up to this set like I got out of bed. That's all you're going to get out of me.
Yeah, because I got to film with a CGI dog tomorrow.
So that kind of influences my take.
So I'm going to disagree with you. I think, like the first movie, I don't think the plot of the movie was essential. Nor do I think the plot of this movie is also essential, even though you say there's more of it. I don't think that there's more of it. I think there's the same amount of story. There just seems to be more focus on that story. And it's spread out. Like they spread it really thin. But the point of the movie is not to understand where the plot is going and be invested in the plot. Rather, you're much more invested in the world building and the atmosphere.
But the way the story is built up, you want to have feelings for him reconciling with his daughter.
But no, I don't agree with that because he's a replicant. The replicants are supposed to be like disposable.
Well, no,
people.
Harrison Ford's not a replicant.
No. Ryan is a replicant.
Right? No. You want to have a feeling about Harrison Ford having a reconciliation with his daughter. Okay. The movie sets you up for that. That's the ending. Mm-hmm. And Ryan Gosling, like, he was going through his whole quest to find out if he was or wasn't human, and he realized the things that made him think he might be human were somebody else's, and he feels joy and happiness in helping that person achieve their emotional catharsis. So she's a central character. You need to feel something about her, and I don't think the movie gives us enough, and her performance doesn't give us enough to feel anything about her.
I still think all that stuff is just a vehicle for Ryan Gosling to. What is the term? What is I can't even think of the word. What was Rock's special thing that he had in Jumanji? What was that called?
Oh, smoldering intensity.
His smoldering intensity. I think that's every time he smolders. I think that's kind of what the movie is more about, more than anything else. And kind of like seeing this replicant who's not really human start becoming more and more human, and kind of falling away from that, and falling in love with joy. and all that.
I was more interested in Ryan Gosling's relationship with the hologram girl.
Yeah, Joy.
Yeah, I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
Yeah. By the way, this movie also shows that you can actually put Mackenzie Davis in a movie, and for that movie to still be good, because she's a good actress, but for some reason she has the worst choice in picking scripts, except for this one.
I mean, this was.
Are you going to say this is a bad movie, or are you going to say that this is just, in comparison, not good compared to the original?
Again, this is a movie you go into for the aesthetics.
Okay.
It had the movie, it had the visual. While I don't necessarily feel like it's the same world, it's a world that's immersive enough that you feel drawn into.
Yeah.
That's that all works. I think the actors all did a good job. I'm not a big fan of Ryan Gosling, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from on him being very good at conveying things without expositing or dialoguing it.
Mm-hmm.
I can get that. But I really felt like Harrison Ford was only there because we need an actor who's from the last movie, other than the cameo with Edward James Olmos, which I thought was hilarious.
I think maybe if they just lessened his role in it, like just made him show up as like a little quick cameo, where they just go to Vegas and he goes hi, or then or just have it go and be a dead end or something. If you're like, no.
So what do you think about Vegas? Yeah, what do you think about Vegas in the apocalypse as we're living in a pre-apocalypse Vegas?
Well, they're not wrong. Well, it's a far less dusty. I will say this. Sorry, my phone's going off. I thought I turned the ringer off before we did this. Yeah, except for the dust, it's pretty accurate. That is pretty dead right now. That's what I imagine all those buildings look like inside right now. Except for the holograms. I would like to see the hologram Elvis show. I would like to see that. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we're kind of mixed on this. So would you recommend Blade Runner 20?
Yes.
Okay, so you would recommend that.
Both of them.
Okay.
It is a very artistic film. I would have liked more people to have seen it, but I just felt it was kind of lacking something in the emotional impact range.
Well, the studio didn't care if people saw it. That was not their intent. This movie was a prestige film. This movie was to flex on how well CGI is, to invest more in CGI, to show off their CGI abilities, because this is the perfect vehicle. If you have some new technologies.
Look, if we could do this thing with Andy's character, right, with CGI, can we do it with a big fuzzy dog?
Of course, you had to have a dog in it. Why is it?
Exactly.
Why is all of the movies he's in now have dogs with it? This is Star Wars, Call of the Wild. Now this. I don't know. all the recent movies with Harrison Ford we've been talking about have had dogs in them that he's hanging out with.
Don't forget that it took 7 years for the technology to be ready to make cats, to get the digital fur technology. By the way, if you haven't seen it, please go watch Ralph the Movie Maker's review of Cats.
It's perfect.
It is perfect. It is great.
Yeah, by the way, I've noticed that I don't even think they released that DLC. I don't think that actually happened. I think that was fake news. Because I watched Should we talk about Cats for a moment? We should wrap this up and then we'll talk about Cats. I'll pull up the stuff, so while you're doing that.
So, we're going to watch Ender's Game next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely on the list. And I don't know what else I'm going to watch because there's a ton of stuff. And there's actually some stuff that we've watched that like is on the shelf, like The Beach Bum with Matthew McConaughey, which is a good movie that Jim needs to watch so we can talk about it. But I actually like the back and forth we had here on Blade Runner. I think we need to do more like heavy prestige movies, just like saying, okay, let's talk about these movies. I think we need to do that while we're on lockdown, while the entertainment industry is dying. Yeah.
So let's talk about Cats. So I don't know if you can see this picture that I pulled up, but okay. So Ralph the Movie Maker just did a review of it, and I went back and I went to the public library and I got myself a copy of Cats to see it because I wanted to see it in stunning Blu-ray. And it's the exact same movie, and I noticed all the same problems with it: the low frame rate, the floating above the floor, the face is messed up.
Much money. It lost so much money. They probably said, "Listen, just send it out the trash."
I don't even think I'm starting to think that they just cut their losses. They announced that they were going to release a new version of it, and they were like, "Nah, no. Forget it. Just forget it. Don't even
throw that in the tax write-off pile."
Yeah. Why was this movie made? I think that's the biggest question we still haven't figured out yet. Like, we can understand why they would make Phantom of the Opera poorly, right? You needed to have a big name actor, so we put Jerome Butler in it. Can he sing? No. Just throw him in there anyway. We'll just put it in, just to make a big Hollywood presentation of this classic, or I guess 90s is classic. Whatever. 90s, classic, Andrew Lloyd Webber production. But that movie had a story. Like, it had, 3 acts, and it had a story, right? Whereas Cats doesn't have a story. It's just a bunch of cats introducing themselves. And it just kind of like a loose thing. The reason why they're doing this is because they're trying to impress old Deuteronomy so they can go to the Heavenside layer. So they added more stuff to this movie to try to make it more like a story. But they didn't really add any real story. They just had like a thing that happened. Quest. Yeah, it was like a side quest. Okay, so a couple of them got captured after their song, and then they put them on a boat, and that whole sequence was probably 10 minutes tops. So why not? Why did they do this? And I'm still of the opinion that if they just went with the weird looking cat, so Ralph the Movie Maker also pointed something out that I pointed out when we were talking about this, is it looked like they didn't know what to do with it. Because if they put everybody in the cat's costumes and just had them dance around, well, they already did that. They already had that release, right? Where they did the
Again, the Steven Spielberg animated version, that looked like something.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. That would have been interesting. But again, what are you going to do with that? Because there's no plot to Cats. It's just a bunch of cats introducing themselves, and that's it. So you can either have the human animal thing, which they already did, and it was done fine for the Broadway show, or you can make them 3D animated to look like cats, but that takes out of the human element and you need that human element because that's what Andrew Lloyd Webber based that show around. Was they were like half human, half cat things, right? So if you get rid of that aspect of it, then that doesn't work. And if you make them CG animated, well, we can see that doesn't work. There's nothing that works. There's no reason to make this movie. So why did they do it other than there's nothing better for him to do since he fucked up Les Mis? He wanted to try to I can still do a classic musical and bring it to film and not fuck it up. Okay, we're gonna do Cats. Like, of all, why did he do the Book of Mormon? That's a serious question. Why didn't he do the Book of Mormon? There's a demand for the Book of Mormon
because Matt and Trey want to do the Book of Mormon.
They don't really direct anymore outside of that.
No, they want South Park to stop, and they want to do the Book of Mormon as a movie.
Yeah, but
I know what you're thinking. But why haven't they stopped it yet? It's because they keep getting big bags of money that says keep doing it.
Yeah. They said they're not going to stop doing South Park until Comedy Central stops sending them money.
And I mean, who can blame them in that situation?
Yeah. I mean, but there's plenty of other plays that they could do. What about Hamilton? Why didn't they make a film adaptation of Hamilton?
That's already in the works.
I thought they were working. No, I thought there was another one, that Brooklyn movie or whatever.
No, they paid for Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
They basically negotiated the rights, and it's the highest payment for the rights for a script from a Broadway play ever.
Okay. What about Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat? There.
I mean, wasn't that done like in the 70s?
No. Not a movie version.
I thought there was.
No, there was one that was done with Donny Osmond, but it was one of those adapted stage shows, right? Where they just show the stage show and that's it. Kind of like how they did with Cats in the 90s. They did the same thing. Except, there was a couple, they filmed a couple scenes, but they were like music videos more than anything else. Where the narrator came on and talked. But it really wasn't a movie. They could have actually made that a movie.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Name any Andrew Lloyd Webber show that hasn't been adapted to a movie yet. Pick one of those. Why Cats of all of them? It doesn't work. There's no reason to make it into a movie.
Cats has made a whole lot of money, so the studio felt safer with Cats. Because there's people who will go out to see if somebody did
that's not really safe though. It's not safe.
Are you saying if people buy a thing that they're not going to buy something that's almost the same but just not as good?
That's exactly what I'm saying. They're not going to do that.
Well, movie studio executives disagree with you.
Well, you know what?
Sure, they keep losing money every time they disagree with you, but that
facts don't care about their opinions, okay? We can say that this doesn't work. This is a horror show. A horror show that I would pay good money to go see a midnight showing for, by the way. I would very much like to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show-esque version of Cats where everybody's throwing spoons and stuff at the crowd, or, like the Broom or something. I would definitely like to go see this. But other than that, it's not a good movie.
No.
It's rather unpleasant. And unless I'm going to go see it with a bunch of other people who are going in knowing that it's going to be an unpleasant time, but hey, let's have some fun with it, this is not a good thing to see. The thing that made it worth me going to see this movie in theaters was after it was over, talking to the other people of the audience about how horrific it was. That's what made it great. The makers of Cats wanted to put out a decent humor musical, and kind of successful, I guess. Oh,
so
and the cat puns. Why did they put that in the movie?
Because the internet. You got to do it because the internet. So that is our show for today, everybody.
So I'm gonna post a link before we wrap this up
to Ralph the Movie Maker's review, which is excellent. You should definitely watch that. That is one of the better Ralph the Movie Maker reviews.
Yeah. And I hopefully it doesn't start playing. Okay, good.
I have never seen the Broadway
music. I'm not going to get hit with a copyright claim. There we go. So I'll post the link there. That's what you should go watch after this is over. And then I have a live stream to do tonight at 9:00 my time, Pacific time, which is in about 2 hours over on Danny Duchamp's channel.
You got a good time to kind of get yourself loose before that.
Yeah. We're going to go straight from talking about sacrificing cats to Satanism, which is not a big jump, I guess. Yeah. So anyways,